Welcome back and thank you very much. This is TV3 New Day. We serve you breakfast every morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday to Friday. And on Saturday, we'll wrap the full week of work up with key points. So stay with TV3. We're first in news, best in entertainment. We'd like to say a big thank you to Grand Park Clothing in Dansoman for my outfit this morning. And also, I want to tell you that if you feel the need to keep hydrated, which you should be doing every single day, Awake Purified Natural Mineral Water is your best bet to do that. And once you buy from Awake, you know that you're supporting the National Cardiothoracic Center for those who may stand in grave need of support for their medical salvation. And so please purchase Awake and also join us daily as we look into the details. Well, this morning, the Daily Graphic reports that 100 billion Ghana cedis of Atampa package. Government places youth at center, according to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta then. We're 4 days away from the Green Ghana Day. Reforms to improve educational system there. Yesterday, the Minister for Education told us more. And the new fares have taken off. It started on Saturday. What's on the back page? Gama's goal wins derby for Kotoko at Len Clay and Hearts Oli in 1-1 stalemate. Yesterday was quite interesting, if you ask me. The Daily Guide. Indom challenger spills beans in U.S. court. Police break largest wee haul in Ashaiman. And SHS enrollment rise to 1.2 million. Also, TB Joshua dies and Jubilee House ahead of transport sacked. Why was he sacked? Well, we will tell you some more, or maybe find a paper and get a read. Alan Woo's American investors, a U.S. Exim Bank supports 1D1F with 300 million facility. U.S. ambassador pays courtesy call on BNFT, and Galamsey destroys 20 acres of cocoa farms weekly. New development bank will be different, Bank of Ghana is assuring. The Ghanaian Times. Financing free SHS. Government suspends or spends 7.7 billion so far from 2017 to 2021. Also, Ken Ofori-Atta also free Akuto others to answer urgent questions by MPs in Parliament sometime this week. World mourns Prophet TB Joshua as he dies at 57. Ketu South tidal waves cause more havoc. Sweep away Srive Forest. And the Finder newspaper, it's the final one, says government spent 7.7 billion on free SHS. Dr. Osei Educhum. We hope ANI will back statements with actions. Springfield says so. And you know, it's been more than a year since government asked them to go and do the unitization. Well, it's taking them forever. Media should set ethical standards, Information Minister. And 1,250 killed in 5 months. It represents 37.67 increase over 908 killed in same period of 2020. Minister unhappy about state of tourism infrastructure in the central region there. Would like to say a big fat belated happy birthday to the Honorable Dakwa Newman, the Member of Parliament for the Okai-Kwe South constituency in the Greater Accra region. Yesterday was your birthday. From all of us, happy birthday to you, Honorable Dakwa Newman of the Okai-Kwe South constituency. Also, belated one to Florence Adwa Nyami Chieku. Yesterday was your birthday. Hoskosan Florence Adwa Nyami Chieku. And also to Jeffrey John Tay of Chiado. This is from Babina Fili Walker. It's your birthday today. Kwesi Kwating is joining me here. He's a member of the NPP's National Communication Team. Also, later we're expecting to have the Honorable Mohammed Abdulaziz, is the former Member of Parliament for the Mion constituency in the North region. Welcome, Kwesi. How are you doing? Good to have you.
Hey, Johnny, good morning. I'm doing well. How are you too?
I'm alive, greater than Accra.
Sure.
The weekend was fine for you?
The weekend was good. I'm doing well.
Okay.
And let me take the opportunity to also, extend my greetings to all your viewers nationwide. That's media general.
Right.
You really cover everywhere, so I'm sure everyone is watching.
Thank you very much.
But I'm sure you are doing well too.
Well, we try for God and country.
Sure.
God and country. Sure. Let's go to the Ketu South area because Joseph Armstrong was out there and Honorable Abulaji Fagomashi, who is the Member of Parliament for the area, also Mr. Elliot Agbanowu were there over the weekend. I just want you to get understanding of what has happened because a week ago we started talking for them. Now, we understand that some relief items have been given to them based on some of the talk that we had and the consultations we had from the insights. Let's quickly take a look at it. We'll come back and see what's next after the relief items.
This is Agaveji, and these are some of the houses that have been washed away. Behind me, the trees there have not been spared either. This particular house, occupants of it are left with no option than to vacate this place as the sea has taken over this very particular room. From where I stand to the main road, it will take you less than 5 seconds to cross over the road. The residents say more than 50 houses have been destroyed by the tidal waves. Many of the displaced residents now sleep in the open. Others have relocated to Agbozume and Jitagba to seek refuge. The affected communities are Agaveji, Salakope, and surrounding communities. Residents of the affected community say the tidal waves have persistently threatened their abode for more than 4 years.
This is not the first time. I think this fested somewhere in January. Normally it starts from June, July, August. But this time around, I think there's a climate change, so the destruction started early this January. And so the number of houses that has been washed away from January till now are numbering about 130 to 150 houses.
Member of Parliament of the area is equally worried.
The situation is so bad. The next wave will take the road. We pray that it doesn't. I mean, in whose interest will that happen? Who is praying for the road to be taken? I'm shouting, I'm appealing, I'm demanding for attention because it is my responsibility to ensure that the government, the state, saves this road. It's a collective resource that has this road here linking Katu South to Kata.
The district chief executive called on the residents to remain calm as he lobbies for the continuation of the sea defense wall.
It is the sea and nobody controls it. At the night, you see that one house, part of it will go to the sea. Then we'll all relax up to a point within 2 weeks. Then you see that the other area, another house also, part of it is gotten to the sea. And the response we are getting now is as a result of the severity of how the destruction is becoming. It's becoming a national discourse where everybody is getting to talk about it. And so it's gotten to that period where the minister or the Ministry of Works and Housing and Finance will come to our rescue.
NADMON has since sent some relief items to the affected communities. Joseph Armstrong, Gold Alobi, TV3, Agaveji, Ketu South, Utah Region.
That's Joseph Armstrong's report there. We're happy that the NADMO guys took some support to them. Oliver Twist will ask for some more. Kwesi, how does this come to you? So the people say, give us the sea defense wall. You started it, but it stopped at some point, about 10 or something kilometers more to be done. Once we do it, this will stop.
Johnny, I think first of all, it's a very worrying situation. And to me, I mean, seeing the scenes, you realize that there's a very unfortunate situation where parents, children, especially women, will have to be displaced. And I mean, issues about accommodation and feeding becomes a problem. And so nobody will raise anything for even the worst enemy. But I think in the first place, what we need to do is quickly call for government swift intervention in matters like this. Because these are people who are distressed. I mean, I heard their MP speaking, and you could see that pressure is on top of it. And so we'll call for a quick government intervention, very swift one. And I think I'm happy that we've seen NADMO going in. And of course, like you said, Oliver Twist, you always ask for more. But I also heard the other side of the story that the people protested. And I think, to me, to some point, it's justifiable, especially looking at the circumstances and the situation that they find themselves in. But what we also call on them is that they should be calm, whilst at the end of the day, we get government response, act swiftly. But I think on the other side, we should be looking at broadly widening the scope of the conversation. Okay. Elsewhere, you have probably the Meteorological Service Department even giving signals to some of these unforeseen contingencies that could happen. And I think it's about time that when we have a conversation, we have it broadly, that in terms of the capacity building of institutions like the Metro and other things, we can't help them. We can't align our conversations to such a, because if you look at it critically, I mean, as a country, we do not really pay attention to an institution like the Meteorological Service Department. And so going forward, the conversation should also be aligned there so that they were able to pick some of these signals earlier. And even if we'll have to evacuate some of these people in the first place before the tragedy strikes. But I've also, I think, initially, what I just read that the Minister of Works and Housing has presented a letter to the Finance Ministry, and they are waiting some confirmations and approval so that the contractor really get back.
In fact, Lawyer Tachiao had been there earlier in 2016 when Honorable Jifa Gomashi was not, what do you call it? She was not the MP of the
then,
area at the time. They had visited the area together with Mr. Agbeno, who is the MC of the place. And the reason the people are protesting is that they get promised, but nothing happens.
And
so the last one, for example, they saw coconut tree trunks blocking the road. Some were cooking on the road. It was quite bad, if you ask me.
So my understanding is that if we look at the K2 South Sea Defense Project, I mean, it has its own kilometers that they will cover. And so the promise was made for an extension to these areas. So if you look at it, there was an earlier contract that was signed, and the contract had a kilometer of the defense wall that they were going to build. And so when, of course, some of these things, when you are undertaking contracts, you do not envisage other places that probably could also be needing the same remedy. And so as of now, I'm sure from 2017 till now, government has gotten to know. And of course, I understand that the first project has ended and they need to start the phase 2. And so what we can only call here is to quickly call for government swift intervention to some of these things so that the other areas can also be covered, especially with the phase 2 of the project.
Okay, well, we pray that all the key stakeholders are listening. Mr. Sensobachi, good morning to you. You are Minister for Works and Housing, and we pray that this will be done quickly and swiftly. We pray also that the folks at NADMO will get their supplies so that they can take some more, because my understanding is that what they took there would last the people about 3-4 days, maybe a week. And once their homes are washed away, the borders are closed. It's a critical thing. Another component of that conversation, Kwesi, is that the people live on the trans-border trade, and the borders have been closed. Some of the fisher folks I spoke with last Friday say their homes are in the sea now. If you cast your net to fish, or in an attempt to want to fish, your net will get torn because the cement blocks are still in the sea. So they can't fish, they can't fend for themselves, they don't have shelter. The borders where they may get livelihood from is also shut. Where do they turn? Is it time for us to open the borders now?
And so, Johnny, if you look at this, nobody expected any form of these things, especially when it's more or less like a natural disaster. And so if you look at the model that has been used to tackle natural disasters, always is being reactive. And the way forward has always been quickly NADMO going in, providing relief items, including mattresses, including food, including certain feeding grounds and other things. And then, of course, finding accommodation for them.
Right.
And so it is about the space and the space of the reactiveness that probably we can have a conversation about. Right. At the end, it all boils down to government really tackling the problem. And the problem, like we said, as of now, has to even deal with matters of feeding, accommodation, and other things. And so first, NADMO has gone there. I'm just hearing it for the first time that some of these relief items, including food and other things, will get finished in the next 4 days.
Right.
I cannot speak on authority because I don't speak for NADMO. But we can only hope, and of course, we can sit here and call on NADMO that as soon as possible, within the shortest possible time, and I am sure that certainly NADMO will have such a plan, of course, with going to their remedy again. And quickly, then government should, of course, have a plan B or alternative plan in resolving this permanently once and for all.
Thank you. Well, Mo, welcome. Mohammed Abdulaziz is a former member of parliament for the Mion constituency. Is joining us now. Mo, the people of Ketu South are begging for the sea defense. Kwesi says he would wish that government would take a speedy action to salvage the situation, because what I saw, again, was that you had electric poles with live wires now in the sea. The sea is getting closer to the main road. that joins the two communities all the way to Keta. So what happens is that it could eat it away and now be coming up there. And they say, Sea Defense Wall 1, give us some help and open the borders. What do you say?
Good morning to you, Johnny, and good morning to my brother and friend, and good morning to our viewers. And sorry for walking in late. I'd want to agree with you that it is an emergency issue. The initial demand was for government to speed up the construction of the defense wall. Now, it appears that we would have to take some urgent measures to be able to deal with the current crisis, and that is where NADMO would come in. I would also agree with you that it will be proper and fair to open the borders at this time, so that at least in the worst situation, there is an escape route. You know, borders are closed, people are in dire situation of this nature. I think that it is only proper that the government would consider opening the border, and NADMO, like you said, should be doing more than they are doing currently.
Should we go ahead and open the borders when we are not so sure we are out of the woods for COVID-19? We have not been able to secure more vaccines for our people, and the risk of importing COVID-19 cases is high. How do we balance the two, the economic question and the public health debate?
That is true, John, that is true. But I'm saying that, you see, land borders have not been opened. We have opened some other areas. And so with the insistence of the protocols, we can allow the border to be open, so that, like I said, at least they would have some escape route. You know, it is important that at this time, we are talking of some live wells in water. That is very dangerous. That is very, very dangerous. And so if we are able to ensure the observance of the COVID-19 protocols at the borders, I think that nothing will prevent us from being able to open those borders to give them some relief. Like we said, NADMO should step in. Sometimes too, NADMO don't have the resources. You know, don't be surprised that they will not be able to respond immediately. So government.
My checks with NADMO proved that they had not gotten the monies that were agreed in the budget for them. So they are getting the supplies at pay as you go.
But that is very common with government institutions.
But why must it be so?
Yes, and that's the problem. You know, it's not just what is allocated to them in the budget. It's the releases. And I can tell you that, speak to most of the government agencies, and they will tell you that they have not even received their releases for the first quarter of 2021. And so government should come in at this time to assist NADMO to be able to assist the people of Keta. It is urgent. It is something we must avert our minds to, so that at least they can also have the minimum benefit of the state intervention.
Okay, thank you very much. And you are invited to join us with your thoughts and comments. But yesterday, the Minister for Education, Dr. Asaya Aduchum, had indicated that government has so far spent 7.7 billion Ghana cedis in the implementation of the free senior high school program. The Minister for Education also disclosed that the constituent disbursement made since the policy was rolled out in 2017 till date, that's the amount I just quoted for you. He spoke to the media yesterday, and he gave a breakdown of the disbursement as follows. In 2017, we spent 480 million Ghana cedis. In 2018, we spent 1,137.861 billion Ghana cedis. In 2019, we spent 1.682.614 billion. And in 2020, we spent 2.429257 billion. And in 2021, we're estimated to spend 1.974,210 billion. And it says that the free SHS was a means to an end and not the end itself. As a result, the government would continue to invest in the education of our youth of the country. And that's the revelation out there. I'll start this with you, Kwesi. So we're spending a lot of money to educate our future leaders. Somebody says, is the free SHS concept sustainable to the end that the monies we're spending are largely monies we're borrowing? So if our benefactors decide not to lend us money, are we able to sustain a good project like the free SHS forever and ever? Amen.
All right, Johnny. So, I mean, on issues of funding, you realize that then the conversation should be about alternative source of funding.
That's right.
That is even granted that the hypothesis being adduced is even tenable in the first
That
place.
we are borrowing money
Yes,
for it.
that is even if it is tenable, because at the end, government has been clear that it's entirely sponsored by government. And of course, I mean, all those things will come in, as in whether or not monies are borrowed or not. But as of now, we know that it's coming purely from central government. But I think the conversation is broader. And on the scale, you will have to balance it. If you look at the gains of the free SHS vis-a-vis the financial commitments that we are having. Because if you look at it from history, you realize that averagely, you have about 100,000 people that complete GHS and unable to enter the senior high school level. And so you have every year, when students graduate, at least you have 35% of these students who will pass but cannot enter into the secondary level.
Right.
And of course, the problem has always been monetary. And even with those who are able to enter, you have 22% dropping out also due to monetary concerns. And so if you take 100 students or 100 people in Ghana here, that qualifies to secondary school or qualify for secondary school education, you get 57 of them not having access. And so that is how the problem was. And you see, as a country, if you really want to develop, and especially going into the future where, and I've always said that development has always been in two. You look at the hard development and the soft development.
Right.
And always the soft development is the one that drives the hard development. Because at the end, you need to really invest in your human capital, the human resources. And so that they can be able to translate into the IT that we need, the artificial intelligence that we need, the scientists that we need, the industries that we need. And so it is a critical decision that as a government or as a people, you have to take which one is your priority area. And so government took the decision. And if you look at the statistics now, between 2017, when we took office till now, we have an excess of 400,000 students. Because when we came into power, it was 800,000. As at now, enrollment has increased from 800,000 to over 1.2 million. And so this is the intervention that we brought. But like you said, with regards to the implementation of, say, a social policy like this, certainly you are going to have some of these challenges, issues with funding, issues with even the implementation generally. It does not necessarily suggest that then probably the policy is not working. I think more or less, even if the hypothesis of funding is to be sustained, what it means is that there should be conversation about alternative source of funding. Because at the end, if we are looking at this socio-economic or socio-economic transformation, the pivot of it is education. And what we did in our first term, the first 4 years, was to increase access. I've always insisted that access alone is not enough.
What about quality?
Yes, so they all move together. From access, you look at it, access, quality, and relevance. They all have complementarity principle. But at the end, if you increase access and you do not have quality, then I mean there is no need of even increasing the access. How do you measure whether or not there has been quality? By their results. And as I speak with you, if you look at the recent WASIDA students route, those students that had all A1s in all the A subjects that they wrote, there are 465 of them. Out of this 465, 411 came from Ghana. If you look at the first top 3 students that came top and won all the awards, all of them came from Ghana. And so from this, you were able to measure that logically it meets the standards of quality. But then again, you ask the question of relevance, because at the end,
value for money.
Yes, value for money. Again, it comes in. But then you answer the question of relevance, because at the end, if you start the conversation about money, and for instance, you want to probably sustain an argument that probably we are spending too much and then it's not sustainable and cool, then you also have to measure it with probably the kind of socioeconomic development that we want, and just opposing it with the kind of people that will have to invest in and the transformation that we want on to.
Okay, there's the other leg of the conversation, and I like the way you've laid it, but there's the other leg of the conversation where we are getting more numbers enrolled at the second cycle level. But then there's also the continuation of education into the tertiary belt, and then the eventual creation of jobs and getting them employable so that the whole national agenda developmental goal will be achieved. If you look at the last cohort from 2019, 2020, you would have realized that there's always some level of a choke at our universities where we have plenty of them who are qualified but cannot get in because the weight up there is not enough to sustain the weight that we are pushing onto them. So we get more graduates who have passed, who are qualified, but cannot get enrollment there. And even if they did, presently we are running shifts for accommodation and all of that. I remember that the government set up the Professor Yanka Committee to take a look at how to inject our free SHS graduates into the tertiary education. What has become of that?
Okay, Johnny, so if you look at education, there are phases of education. And at the end, even the fact that probably you could have had, as a country, 400,000 uneducated young guys, especially up to the secondary level, was even a problematic. And so if you have a government that takes steps, I mean, just for the purpose of this conversation, that if you have a government that takes steps to educate 400,000 people that ordinarily wouldn't have had that, and even it ends there. For me, I mean, these are people that, depending on the kind of education that you give them, they can even do something. Because, for instance, let me give you a clear case of, say, the TVET education.
Right.
If, as a people, we really invest in, say, TVET education, tertiary education for them may not even be a big issue. But it all depends. People may elect to proceed to the tertiary level. But at the end, there have to be a balance. Of course, I agree, within what you are producing at the secondary level and the tertiary level. And so if you look at the interventions that has been coming, for instance, government has started building a university in the eastern region. But what I believe it should be the way forward, and is what the government is doing, that is, of course, existing and expanding the existing infrastructures in, how do you call it, the tertiary, major tertiary institutions that we have. And for instance, as I know, for instance, University for Development, for instance, initially was one campus. Now they've been given the autonomous status to operate as different universities. What that means is that now they are going to embark on massive infrastructure projects at their independent campuses level. I have also seen similar thing that has been done with the university, with respect to the University for Education, Winneba. Currently, the Jumako campus and the Kumasi campus are separate campuses on its own. What it means is that they are going to have new balls, new investment, everything, and then they are also going to expand. But I think what the focus should be on, especially how you lay the question, the premise of the question with regards to producing these guys and they do not have a job, is also the kind of education that we give to them. Because it is possible, it is possible that you can give people education even at the secondary level, provided they have entrepreneurial skills, government is able to support them, the economy is flourishing. These people can even be able to set them up. And that is the whole dream of Educhum.
You see, the concept of JSS, as was introduced to us in the late 70s, dovetailing into the early 80s, was that we're going to have technical skills, technical drawing, vocational skills, life skills, and I studied all of them. I'm sure around this table we all did. So that you had, even at the JSS level, you knew how to do banana cake, sponge cake on your own. You knew how to fabricate metals. You knew how to put together a small kitchen stool. You knew how to lay brick at that JSS level. And I always boast that at Kanesh Anglican JSS, our washroom was constructed by us as part of our project work. And once you're able to lay 2 or 3 blocks, you're giving 10 marks. You know, in a team of 5 or 6.
And life skills and co,
yes, life skills. We did it, grey bathed and all of that. That was the essence of the JSS education. Now we're bringing a different kind of education, of course, with new additions. What is it supposed to achieve exactly?
If you look at the JHS education, for instance, ordinarily, the JHS is supposed to even be part of the secondary level. That is the senior high level.
The new model.
But yes, as a country, we elected to put it at the local level. And so you realize that they are wearing the same school uniforms, the same teachers, literally the same textbooks, and more or less it tend to be like the basic school system. But I think with the point that you are raising, yesterday, listening to the minister, Dr. Duchum, I was happy when he mentioned about the introduction of the dual system. And so with the introduction of the dual system, what it means is that you could be schooling all right, having your grammar, the normal core subjects. For instance, you go to school 2 times in a week, then you visit, say, an industry and go and learn the practical knowledge. And so when you finish, and you are able to set up, you do not probably even need to put pressure on the government with regards to job. Because at the end, let's be very practical here and realistic. Within the next coming years, 20, 30 years, most of these jobs that we see are not even going to exist, because we are moving to the era of artificial intelligence. Even you go to countries like UK and America, they've even moved from industrialization to the provision of servicing. And so gradually we are changing, and we need to adjust to what the developing nations are doing.
If you look at Rosto's model of globalization,
No, but we can start.
We cannot compare ourselves to the US because we still pretty much are an agrarian society.
That's what I'm saying, that we
are
can
here
start.
to grow out of that. So now, if this is what we are putting out, 2 quick questions and the ball will come in. How do we ensure that people are not truant? Because I remember I attended a school where we had a shift system. You meet a child on the streets in the morning and he tells you, oh, I'm for the afternoon shift. You meet that same child later in the afternoon, says, oh, I went for the morning shift. Truancy is one. That's the first one. Now, the second one is that, could we, for example, instead of having people go to school for some of the days, have them go to school throughout the day and then throughout the week, and then maybe on weekends and on vacations, they can go and get those jobs, and then a bit of marks is factored into the academic, standard for them. Okay,
so with regards to that, you realize that at the tertiary level, that is even being done. That is the intention policy that we are rolling. Probably you are proposing that we should be looking at bringing it to the secondary level.
Holiday jobs.
Yeah, it's a conversation that we can all have. So you liaise with the manufacturing companies, for instance, and then we train our people in that.
Right.
But then you mentioned an issue of punctuality. I think
truancy.
Yes, truancy. It even goes beyond that, because it is possible for people to be present but still not learning. And so there has to be holistic conversations and systems about not only preventing truancy, but also even the problems associated with presenteeism.
Okay.
And then again, yesterday the minister made emphasis of something, that in order to check some of these things, we are proposing, and of course, it's for the purpose of conversation, that stakeholders will come involved and talk, that an ID card system, where the Ministry of Education, GS, is going to liaise with the National Identification Authority, and you are able to use the ID cards to track where the student is at the particular time. You're able to monitor whether the student has dropped out and those things. I'm sure all these things, holistically, who should be able to help with some of these challenges that we
Are we talking of now or in a futuristic view? Because even the NIA cards that we have now, you know that...
No, but you are aware the NIA has started, and the next phase is actually the registration of pupils in school. Right. If you realize, the earlier conversation was whether or not the NIA was going to be used in the voting process, that is relative to the 2020 elections.
Right.
It was the more reason why it was captured from 15 years and above. But currently, what the NIA is doing is to be visiting the schools. And it's all about priorities.
Okay.
What, as a people, we believe is a priority for us.
Okay.
And then we
right.
take
Mo,
that
step in for me. So these are the plans for the Ministry of Education, that the direction of Dr. Duchum. And I love him for one thing, that he has a vision to get more than 100 engineers for Bosomtwi area. So yes, I celebrate him for that, and that he has taken the first step to actually sponsor some of them to go and learn. That I believe that that's a fantastic thing. If every MP, every minister is able to do a bit of that, will be fine. But these are the areas that the minister envisages that we should be looking at to shift the paradigm and prepare our people to compete effectively and efficiently on the global front. How does that sit with you?
Johnny, I listened to the minister yesterday, and I'm still not able to come into terms with what he sought to do.
How?
Because I saw the minister speak to vision. He's the Minister for Education of this Republic.
That's right.
His mandate, as we know, spans from now up to the end of 2024. And so he should be telling us what policies and projects that government has rolled out to be able to address the issue that we are complaining about. But to give a vision, what you wish we were doing, he should be telling the people of this country exactly what he's doing.
He's told you about access, he's told you about WASI success, he's told you about some infrastructure that's coming out.
These are things we know. These are things we know. Okay. We know the performance of our students at WASI. We know the questions that has come with them. And so he should be telling us, as the minister responsible for education, the government officer in charge of our education, what policies they have resolved to implement, within what time frame, what is the resource requirements, and how are they going to be able to mobilize those resources. But not to come and tell us you've taught in America. No. Why?
Go ahead.
We should be interested in knowing what, as a Minister for Education, what he intends to do or what he's doing. Not to come give us some utopian scenarios. Why? If you talk about, you see, when you're speaking, I had a lot of disagreements with you.
No. Hold on. Mo, go ahead.
I had a lot of disagreements with you.
But Kwesi is not speaking, so go ahead.
Now, Johnny, it is interesting that the entire conversation has now zeroed down to the issue of Free Senior High School. But it is true that in talking about education in this country, we should be talking of the basic education up to the university level. But I understand why the conversation is being narrowed down to Free Senior High School.
Tell me why.
Because that is the topical issue that we are all worried about. People are worried about the quality of students that we are churning out. And so I can understand. Now, the minister talks about spending about 7.7 billion Ghana cedis from 2017 up to date. That is refreshing to know. Sometimes the impression is created that almost all the economy is not doing well because of Free Senior High School, and that it is the Free Senior High School that is virtually taking every resource in this country. In fact, the data given by the minister himself, the 7.7 billion Ghana cedis, given by the minister himself, would make every reasonable and independent person to know that Free Senior High School is not the being of the problems of our economy.
I see.
You are talking of a government that has taken in excess of 200 billion Ghana cedis in tax and non-tax revenue. You are talking about a government that has borrowed about 180 billion Ghana cedis. All put together, you are getting close to 400 billion Ghana cedis in the past 4 years, right? Now you have spent only 7.7 billion Ghana cedis on Free Senior High School. And so it is erroneous for anybody to try to explain that because of the Free Senior High School, that is why the economy is not doing well. Because why? 7.7 billion as compared to 400 billion Ghana cedis. Now, when you roll out a program like Free Senior High School,
are you also considering the infrastructural investment?
I would come to that. I would come to that. I would come to that. When you roll out a project or a policy like Free Senior High School, we're told that, oh, it's a new policy, there are some teething problems that would encounter.
That's right.
That is true. But if you roll out a program and in your fifth year, you are still having some of these structural and fundamental problems, it raises questions about the efficacy of that policy.
Oh, how?
Yes, I'll come to that. You see, we have always said that, look, Free Senior High School is a good intervention. It is something that is provided for by the Constitution of this country. And so no government can stay away from senior high school or can make an attempt to speak against Free Senior High School. It is a good intervention. And now when you talk about the numbers moving from 800,000 to 1.2 million, and trying to argue that the extra 400,000 students is as a result of only Free Senior High School, that is not true. Look at the trend analysis. The numbers have always increased from year to year. And so to assume that the 400,000 students would have been out of school if Free Senior High School had not come is what?
Are you suggesting that Free SHS added nothing?
It did.
Okay.
But to argue that the extra 400,000 students is as a result of only the introduction of Free Senior High School is not true.
What else accounts for that number?
I'm saying that, Johnny, every year the numbers has always increased. I mean, you can go and look at the numbers. And so for someone to tell me that if we had not implemented Free Senior High School, the numbers would still have been 800,000, it means that the person doesn't understand the numbers and the trend.
Let's look at the question of quality, the question of access, and then the question of the components that goes into it.
The minister even added a third one.
The children for the future.
The minister even added a third one, which I agree to: relevance.
Okay.
Access, quality, and relevance. Why? We have raised the issue of access as a party. We have maintained that as a party, we opted for the progressive introduction of free senior high school, coupled with massive infrastructure. That's what President Mahama and NDC was doing. And so, in 2015-2016 academic year, you are aware that we had launched the progressive free senior high school. Some good number of students were enjoying free senior high school under President Mahama and NDC. We had also embarked on the 123 e-blocks. We are aware about 50 of them had been completed. We are also aware of the secondary education improvement program that the minister even alluded to, that they inherited that project from the NDC. And so we were trying to do both at the same time, dealing with issues of access and quality at the same time. Okay. You see, when you are doing a program, a policy like free senior high school, you can only do targeting. Why?
How do you want to do that?
You can do targeting.
Well, Finance Minister proposed that it was shut down in the early days of the free SHS policy.
President Mahama and NDC were first to propose some review, calling for targeting. And we were called all manner of names. Later, the Finance Minister himself came to speak about it and even indicated that he, as a minister, could pay for 10 students. And so when you have a very constrained budget, and you are dealing with huge numbers, and you admit that it is becoming a burden on the state, you can have a policy where people who are capable and willing to pay can pay.
So you are being anti-rich. You want a policy that will be anti-rich.
No. I'm saying that people who are willing and capable, even if you are rich and you are not willing to pay, I'm sure if government was to make it a targeted policy, some people would have wished to pay for their kids. Why? Just imagine the governor of Bank of Ghana and the woman who sells a charcoal in my constituency. When you are doing a policy, a pro-poor policy, you must target the very poor.
The question I want to ask you is this: would Mohamed Abdulaziz and Kwesi Kwarteng and the Minister for Education, the MPs you are talking about, would you take your children to these Saito schools?
Why not?
Would you have your children in there?
Why not?
Because the checks that we have done indicate that the policy formulators don't have their children in the schools.
It is even worse, Johnny.
They don't have their children
in the schools. It is even worse. Go and check.
We are taking decisions.
Most of government appointees and those who are capable would even send their wives abroad to give birth, to deliver. It's a practice in this country.
So what?
We all know
so what are we doing?
Because
what are we doing?
That back home is not good.
See, so we are. Yesterday, I listened to the minister. I'm getting a sense that he's looking at a better educational system. But if we can do all this and the people in the room, as I saw yesterday, the technical advisors, whatever, don't have their children as part of it, then what are we doing?
He must not be looking at a better educational system. He must be working towards that. That is why I'm saying that the minister should be telling us what he's doing.
Okay.
To give meaning to it. And you raise the issue of infrastructure.
The last one, so that Bella can come in.
Why? We're in this country, in the 7th Parliament, when the ministry came for a loan of $1.5 billion US and promised to use $500 million for infrastructure at the basic level, use $500 billion at the secondary school level, and another $500 million, for infrastructure at the university level. Tell me, it is almost 3 years today. How many secondary schools have they constructed?
Okay.
That $500 million
so just to give a bit of background,
education.
Infrastructure provided to cater for rising enrollment includes 3-unit classroom block, 66-unit classroom block, 171 8-unit classroom block, 1 12-unit classroom block, that's 152 of those, 80-unit classroom block, that's 8 of those, 24 classroom unit block, that's 1, home economics block, 2, single-story dormitory, that's 287, 2-story dormitory, that's 25, 3-story dormitories, that's 6, and a dining hall and kitchen, that's 2. The rest are library block, 7 of those, ICT block, 1, science block, 2, assembly hall, 5, administrative block, 14, 6-seater WC toilet block, 124 of those, 12-seater WC toilet block, 26 of those, 3-story flat, 3 of those, canteen block, 10, fence wall, 3, and rehabilitation works on 52 projects ongoing. That's the rates, the scorecard.
So you see,
wrap up so Bella can.
When President Mahama and NDC were doing the 200 e-blocks that we promised, and we started 1, 2, 3, it was there for everyone to see. All these numbers that the minister has mentioned can you see them on the ground?
But-
And now, let me just correct something you said. You talked about your government constructing a university in the Eastern region. Which university are you talking about? Are you referring to the University for Sustainable Environmental Studies?
I won't do your research for you. I mean,
That project is the legacy of President Mama and the NDC.
I won't
Okay.
do
You
your
have
research
nothing to
for
do
you.
with it.
Thank you.
I'm just telling you to put on record. That
Thank
you
you.
have nothing to
Thank you. Bella, what do you see?
Well, quite a lot, but I mean, I like that you raised that issue of the government officials and
Yeah.
claims that they don't have their kids
Yeah.
in the
Their
same
children are not in the
institutions.
schools.
I mean, last week, Dr. Clement Park also raised a
Yeah.
concern about the education minister,
Yeah.
that based on his checks, he had found out that one of his kids was not in
Yeah.
any of the free SHS institutions, but rather in a private institution. I'm not sure if the minister has
The,
responded.
the question is that
to those
if they think that the
allegations.
policy is good for all of us and for our children, why are their children not in the schools?
Yeah.
Let's be fair to the minister.
Okay, so that's something I'm not sure.
Okay,
So
what did he say?
He said his son is not even old enough to be in SHS.
You see?
Again,
That's a very smart answer.
again. No, you see.
You have plenty to take care
want to have such
Relax,
conversations,
relax.
Hold on.
Relax.
If you
Allow
want to
him.
have such conversations, let's broaden it. The socialist former president Rollins, where did his children have education?
That's why
And
they were voted out of power.
Yes, we are perfect. Again, Dr. Park. Let's interrogate and even question that. Where did where are his children currently?
You have an idea?
Okay.
I'm coming.
You have an
The
idea?
point is that the
You
minister,
have an idea?
hold on, the minister gave an answer, a direct answer, and he said his son is not even old enough to be in
He should have
SHS.
been bold to tell
What
us
the
that
minister
he's
is
not-
saying is
Let's
that
go.
it's even bold.
Thank you.
Let me just read these messages
Yes.
quickly, then you can continue with that.
Okay.
But the free SHS in its current form is a disaster because students now spend more days in the house as holidays than they do in school. The current Form 2 Gold students spent 39 schooling days and have since gone home to spend 92 days on holidays. Headmasters are suffocating because there is no food for feeding. The intervention classes that were started in March 2020 has not been completed. The amazing thing is that half of the students who got admission made day students, and some of these students do not hail from those areas in which they've been placed. Hence, most of them have to rent rooms and others have simply stopped because they cannot afford. That's Issa Kantangere from WA. Good morning, Johnny. I think there should be a law that will force everyone on government's payroll to patronize our public institutions. So you'll see the finance minister's kids attending Choco DA Basic School, or all public officials not being allowed to seek medical attention at private hospitals or outside Ghana, so that they'll see the need to improve the quality of education and healthcare infrastructure, etc. From Sylvester, from Takrady, dualize highways to all regions. Okay. Good morning, TV3. Free SHS is a nice policy, but its implementation is very poor. We still have schools under trees, no furniture, and others at the basic level. We're not done tackling issues at the basic level. Our education system is just going down. Our leaders must look at it very well. Ama from Senegal, from Achim Oda. Okay. Good morning, Johnny and your crew. Why are we so much focused on free SHS policy in terms of financing to the disadvantage of the basic schools when the basic schools feed the SHS? Shaibu Mashud and Tamale. There are few positions for students who study visual arts in our universities. Kweku from La Paz. With this free SHS policy, a lot of people, including you, Johnny, didn't believe in it, and you continue not to believe in it.
That's a lie.
You started
That's
saying...
a lie. That is a lie. That is a big fat lie.
Well, let me finish what he says.
No. That's a lie. It's a, this is a
Let me
political
just
propaganda, jaundice, ill-informed, misbegotten, and shameful.
Okay, he says you started saying it was impossible. Then you moved from impossibility to where is government going to find the money to fund it. Now that it's being implemented and funds are available to fund it today, it has come, today it has come so we can sustain it. Yes, it can be sustained, and governance is who you put your money into. Okay, and it better is, yeah, this is confusing. Charles Nyamia Samankese, this Akufo-Addo-led MPP government has been a big failure in all aspects of the economy, and education is no exception. Hughes, do you know President Akufo-Addo has come to cancel automatic teachers' employment, denying newly trained teachers their first year salary of about 18,000 Ghana cedis, which would have been enjoyed under President Mahama, former President Mahama. So you can understand why facilitation of their so-called free SHS has become a problem. That's
Great. Thank you very much. So the point is that when you take my taxes to implement a policy, I will ask you questions. And me, I won't stop asking the questions. Okay, let's wrap up the conversation. So the people, I've heard some Ghanaians say that they have basis to celebrate their homo. Last year, they were denied the celebration because we said COVID was in. They have seen Sir John's funeral, they have seen the installment of the Krafim King, they have seen other things happen, and they are saying, look, this perhaps is the dress rehearsal we've been waiting for. Let's also mass up and celebrate. Are they justified? COVID is still around. Kwesi?
Okay, Johnny. So
let's wrap up on that.
Okay,
our
Johnny,
time is gone.
Quickly, if you ask me, I think as a people, our general performance and credibility when it comes to enforcement of laws has been low. And that is not only even with respect to the COVID-19 protocols and the laws surrounding it. Because if you look at the law, say, for instance, the GIPC Act, which forbids foreigners from trading in this country, as a people, we've not been able to enforce it. That's it. Yes. And so if you look at, say, a law like the Road Safety Regulations Act or whatever, our performance on it has been low. And so we continue to record accidents almost every day. If you go to sanitation laws, probably it was worse. Probably as at now, it's becoming better. And so our general performance on some of our laws has been low. And so it is the more reason why you are having some of these challenges that we go to Parliament, pass a bill into an act. It's supposed to regulate our conduct. It's supposed to regulate our behavior. And at the end, you have political leadership, of course, from both divides. If you look at Sir John's funeral, for instance, you had even the NDC there. Yeah, so it shouldn't be made to look like it was strictly an MPP organized thing. At some point, we may have to fulfill some of these protocols, even though it's still illegal in fulfillment of certain civil or constitutional duties, i.e. what we witnessed during the election 2020 time. You have religious leaders also breaching this law. Recently, you heard about the Christ Embassy instance. And so if you look at this, any person who may want to equalize can probably advance such an argument referencing incidents and precedents of the law not being enforced properly. But I am not sure any of us is trying to say that if a law was broken in angle A, and because we're not able to enforce it, probably we should all advise that it should also be broken in angle B.
Crime does not expire.
Yes, so at the end, what we should call for is, in the first place, probably investigation into the matters and prosecution. And again, also those who also want to break the law, we also call on them to respect the law. We cannot suggest that because probably I stole a meat and I was not caught, somebody should also go and steal the same meat. I'm not sure that is the kind of society that we want to.
Are they justified? Are the guns justified? Because the ban on drumming will be lifted by Thursday, the 10th of June, and then the homo will start. And they are saying, look, we have also seen people massing up to celebrate. Leave us alone to celebrate. Are they justified?
I'm unable to give a direct or a specific answer to the question.
Why not?
But Johnny, you see, it's not just about we making laws and being unable to implement them. The people who make the laws themselves, the lawmakers themselves, have become lawless.
It's not the same thing.
Oh.
Allow him. We're out of time.
You have the police going to court to prevent people from demonstrating because of COVID. Churches are unable to operate because of COVID. We all are restrained in a way. And yet, for a funeral of a political figure, you have the vice president, the number 2 person in this country, the second person in command, the chairman of the police council, the very police that stops all of us from engaging in what we want to do because of COVID. You have that vice president in such a thick crowd, and government is tight-lipped about it.
He was not there alone. He was not there alone.
And when you talk about both the NDC and the MPP were there, what do you mean? Are we in government?
So
do we implement policies?
So you can break the law in opposition? Is that what you are saying?
You see, when you engage yourself in such
let's condemn wrong. We cannot say that
and
because
so condemn it and condemn the vice president. Be bold enough to condemn the vice president. He was the person that represented the president.
Okay.
Condemn him. Be bold enough.
Thank you very much. We got to go. Kwesi Kwarteng is a member of the National Communications Team of the NPP. Kwesi, thank you very much for coming. First time meeting you on air. Fantastic conversation we've had. Also, Mohammed Abdulaziz is the Member of Parliament, former Member of Parliament for the Mion constituency. I wanted to see if I had his attention. I wanted to be sure if I had his attention. I'm sure I did. And Mo, good to see you again.